welcome to Zen Fits and a beautiful Tuesday here in Blackstone, Virginia, the center of the world, but then you too are the center of the world. And so the title of this talk, this Zen Fit today, is The Mythos of Submarines. So I've been writing about this morning, and yesterday I wrote about it, and today I've been writing about it, so I'm kind of ginned up about it. And it's because I was in the submarines, because yesterday was Veterans Day, so hey, wait a minute, I'm a veteran. So I was I joined the Navy in 1957, and was in the submarines for 5 years, the USS Cabrera, a diesel-electric submarine stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. And I was on that same boat for 3.5 years. So then I got extended my year when I met my wife at Longwood and got married and extended a year to help her finish at Longwood. So I left the Navy. So I've been writing about that this morning and discovering a mythos in it. Now here are my dolphins. See that? 2 dolphins and a little submarine. Now this is, submariners wear these dolphins, and when you get on a submarine you have to qualify and earn your dolphins. So qualifying means that you have to learn every pipe, every valve, every system on the submarine. So as you walk through the submarine, you are tested. What's that valve? What do you do here? Engine room, electrical room, control room, everywhere. It's valves, systems, gauges, everything. And you have to know the whole submarine. The whole submarine has to be in you. You are the sub is you. On a surface ship, you just learn your rank, your rate, your compartment. You don't know anything about the rest of the ship. You just know your space, your little expertise. So with the surface ship, hierarchy is that of a pyramid. Captain, executive, boom, 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 down into departments, little compartments, you see. The submarine is more like a tribe. It's more like all for one, one for all. Everyone knows everything about everything. And so it's not, but yet you still have your rate. You know, I was the sonarman, so I knew the sonar. And then you had the engine man, electrician, torpedo man. But yet, at the same time, we were all one. So there was this oneness that held the many, you see. On a surface ship, the many, there is no one. You're just part of the many, and this abstract system holds it all together. But in the submarine, there was no abstract law, you see. It was more organic, a feeling unity. Where on the surface ship, there is no feeling unity, you know, so that you need the law to hold everything together, you see. So this is a vast difference in the way. Now I'm speaking metaphorically now. That's why I wrote the title of this, The Mythos of the Submarine. So we're looking at the mythos mean. Now when I say mythos, you think of mythology or fantasy or story or Greek mythos. But mythos is, the way I'm using it here, is more or less the metaphorical story framework that holds the surface, the data together, that points to a greater whole. So the metaphor takes some experience, some form that we name and know, and gives it another name, through the metaphor we can get a grasp of a greater understanding, a greater whole that is not seen in the conscious names and forms that everyone says here. So like this is the fact of this is that this is the dolphin insignia that represents your being in submarines, and you have to earn them. But it's also a metaphor. Now what do you see here? You see is that 2 dolphins with a submarine going between them. Now this is like Moses going through the Red Sea. This is like going through, the dolphins represent the pairs of opposites. See how I speak metaphorically here? The dolphins represent the pairs of opposites of form. See, the physical form world that we look around and say is a thing out there, trees, cars, bushes, I name them all. Oh, what is that bush? Oh, that's a chameleon. Oh, now I know what it is, you see. So we're always saying, what is that? What is that? With the child. What is that, Mama? What is that? Oh, gives it a name. Oh, now I know what it is. I can go on to something else. So everything gets fixed. But it's fixed in pairs of opposites. That's what Noah's Ark is about. Everything on Noah's Ark is a pair of opposites. You say male and female, but that's a pair of opposites. So even this is a pair of opposites. What's the pair of opposites here? Well, this is a pair, it's dolphins, but it's only this because it's not something else. So there is no this by itself. This is something because it's not something else, you see. So everything, consciousness, functions in pairs of opposites. You can't get away. Nothing stands alone. There is no single thing in the universe that doesn't have a second, that doesn't have its opposite. Otherwise, we couldn't know it. If everything were green, you wouldn't be able to see green because it has no opposite. You would have to be one dot of another color in order for green to pop into consciousness. Otherwise, you wouldn't know it was there. It would be unconscious, you see. You see what I'm saying here? So everything, so here's the metaphor, you see. Pairs of, or what goes between the pairs of opposites but the submarine? Now, why is the submarine do that, you see? Well, a submarine, why is a submarine different from a surface ship? So this is what I was been writing about and exploring this morning, the mythos of the submarine. The submarine travels alone, is a solitary being, but it also goes with the fleet. Now, the USS Cabrera, which was the submarine I was on, was part of an anti-submarine fleet with the Valley Forge as the carrier, and it had about 6 or 7 destroyers, and there were two submarines. And the submarine I was on was outfitted with a huge sonar dome. It was like the size of a room. You could get up in there, under the bow of the sub. And this sonar dome had it was like big ears, and and you could listen. It was for listening, and I could pick up a surface ship 60 miles away. I could pick up a merchant ship going 60 miles away. Destroyers not so far because they were like very fast, but you could pick up that slow merchant ship far, far away. And there were whales and porpoise whistling and banks of shrimp that were like bacon frying. And so it was an underworld of sounds, you see. So I forgot what I was talking about. So the submarine is different from the surface ship because it's like a frog. It can be okay on the surface and run around the fleet, go with the fleet's going here, the fleet's going there, you go with it. But at the same time, it can suddenly disappear, and it can dive down into the deep. And the surface ship can't go there, you see. That's death to the surface ship. You're sunk. It's Davy Jones' locker down there. But the submarine willingly dives down, and it's at home under the sea. In fact, it's better under the sea than it is on the surface. Undersea, it's calm. There could be a hurricane up there. And you'd sit there and your coffee cup would not move. Peaceful, silent, still. Upstairs, up in the surface, whoa, I'm throwing up. Waves crashing and everything. Underneath, the silence, Run Silent, Run Deep. That was the name of a book. Run Silent, Run Deep. It says the submarine's at home, beneath the surface, and on the surface. Whereas the surface ship is only at home on the surface, and it fears beneath the surface. Another thing I've been thinking about, well, there's so many things I can go into here, so I may pick this up later and continue it. But the other, when you're alone, when you're at sea on a submarine, now just getting back to the literal dynamics of the fleet I was in as an anti-sub. Our purpose, the two submarines, was to be targets for the destroyers, so they could practice hunting and sinking us. So it was always war games. So we were always, and our job was to get in and try and sink the carrier without being sunk by the destroyers. So it was like the war game there. But so we were always alone at sea. Very rarely did we go on the surface with the other ships. We were always alone. So we were, and an interesting thing about a submarine, as soon as it's both the wolf and the prey at the same time. Because when the submarine attacks the surface ship, the act of attacking makes the submarine the prey of the destroyers or the planes. So the very act of being the attacker makes you the attacked. The same act, you see. It's not one or the other. The same act, you see. So that's kind of like right there, penetrating the pairs of opposites. Attack, be attacked. Be the wolf, be the prey. Well, the submarine is both at the same time. So the submarine is both on the surface and beneath the surface at the same time, although which one it is depends on your perspective, you see. But its very nature is to be both above and below at the same time, potentially. But when you're conscious of it, it's either, oh, it's on the surface, or wait a minute, where did it go? It's beneath the surface, see. But potentially it's both. So this idea of transcending the pairs of opposites, you see, the submarine transcends the pairs of opposites, the dolphins, you see, is being potentially both at the same time. Because you can't be both above the surface and below the surface at the same time. But you can potentially be both above and below. And whichever one you are depends upon your perspective. The surface ship has no choice. It can only be above. So the surface ship is, metaphorically speaking again, as we explore this, the surface ship is confined to references on the surface. When you're on a surface ship, when you're at sea, you only know where you are by reference to some fixed point, either the North Star, the sun, an island, another ship, something. There's got to be, but when there's no reference, it's kind of terrifying. You know, where are you? You're kind of like you're kind of like, if you're alone at sea, you're kind of like you're at the center of a plate. And 360 degrees around you is vast ocean, and you're at the center. And when you move, you don't know if you're moving or not. I mean, you can tell you're moving if you look down at the waves and say, oh, there's waves, I'm moving. Well, that's a reference. But if there's no reference to anything fixed, you don't know where you are. You don't know which way you're going. You don't know you go left or right or what. So that's kind of a terrifying feeling of being lost. The feeling of like being in the woods and suddenly, is my compass working? Or wait a minute, I don't. Or being in a whiteout in a snowstorm. That's a common experience. You're driving along and you see trees and suddenly you're in a whiteout and you have no reference. Planes, people crash, pilots who can't fly on instruments, they get in a fog. They don't know whether they're up or down. You lose your references, you see. So the submarine is kind of like not afraid of losing its reference to the fixed world of the surface. So that the submarine, metaphorically speaking again, is not afraid to dive beneath the surface of references that depend upon fixed absolutes, fixed reference points. Primitive societies, ancient societies, all had a fixed reference, a cosmic mountain, an avatar, the home tree. All the religions have a fixed Mecca. It's a fixed point. Mount Galathea, whatever, is a fixed point. Jerusalem is a fixed point, you see. America, Washington, the Washington Monument, a fixed point. So we all, on the surface, know where we are by having some fixed reference. And then we defend that fixed reference to death, because if that fixed reference goes, we're in Davy Jones' locker. So even politically, the president can become our fixed point. Like with people who follow Trump. Trump is the fixed point. They will defend Trump to death. Because if Trump goes, Davy Jones' locker, there's nothing fixed, you see. So we fear the loss of our fixed reference, which is how the surface fleets work, you see. But the submarine does not fear the loss of a fixed point, because when you dive beneath the surface of the ocean, there is no fixed point. There is no fixed reference. You dive beneath name and form. Now we're getting into yoga and Buddhism. Now we're getting into name and nam, name and rupa, name and form, you see. Now we're getting into Zen. What is your face before your parents were born? What is your face? What is your face before the pairs of opposites were born? What is your face before form was created? Who are you? Are you just this and not that? Are you just some form that is defined by being not that form? Are you this because you are not that? Are you free from the pairs of opposites of name and form, you see? That is the question that the submariner wants, metaphorically speaking. That is the question that drives the submarine to dive beneath the surface, to find out, to discover who they really are. And so the submarine discovers that it is both above and below. It is both this and that, potentially. Potentially. We're all this and that, you see. So when I say at the beginning of the talk, you are at the center of the world and you are the center of the world, I'm basically saying that you are like a submarine in the ocean with no fixed reference. And it feels like you're at the center of the whole ocean of the world, you see. You are at the center of this plate, and there's no fixed reference. There's nothing to cling to. There's nothing to define you. And there you discover who you are. There you discover your true nature. Thanks for dropping in. See if we can pick this up again. I think it has legs.